Hi, Alison.
Hi, Katie. Lovely to see you today. So
And you?
I'm interviewing Katie Tildersley from Pukka Herbs, and we're going to be talking about the wonders of turmeric and green tea. Katie, you're a licensed medical herbalist and practitioner. Tell me, what is the excitement around turmeric in scientific circles right now? Why is it being called the super spice?
There's an awful lot of information out there at the moment about turmeric, and when you think about it, the herb in itself contains over 200 different bioactive constituents. So that in itself is quite incredible. And there's been an awful lot of research into one of those, which is curcumin. And that's the constituent that gives it that really lovely, bright, and
golden yellow colour.
Yes, and what we're finding now is that actually that's responsible for some anti-inflammatory, antibiotic, antioxidant, all sorts of different properties found within that particular plant.
Yeah, so how easy is it to actually harness the benefits of turmeric in a food state supplement so that it does have health benefits?
I mean, one of the key things actually that we've been finding at Pukka, because we've done a bit of research into turmeric and how it works and how it interacts with the body, and we found that it's actually not just the curcumin that's important, it's also elements of the essential oils. These are elements called tumerones, which give it that really lovely spicy smell. Mm-hmm. And you actually need both in order for the body to absorb it effectively. And you can also use other things like piperine, which you get in the pepper family, so black pepper, long pepper, and that helps the body to absorb curcumin as well, which is unfortunately can sometimes be quite a difficult thing to absorb unless you've already been able to extract it out, or unless you take it alongside a whole root preparation or with something like black pepper. So it's about getting the right supplement, and it's all about making sure you've got a whole root preparation where you've got all the different elements. You want all of those wonderful constituents, not just the curcumin, in order to get the real benefit from it.
That's very interesting, because I think a lot of people think that if they just go and buy a packet of turmeric spice in the supermarket and start eating every day, that it's going to have wonderful health benefits. Is that actually not the case, that it's all about the synergistic blend of turmeric, how it's produced, how it's harvested, and then about the synergy of the black pepper and the turmeric together that gives the health benefits?
I mean, what you also have to consider is that turmeric has been used for thousands of years in Ayurvedic traditions.
Yeah.
And used in lots of different ways. It was maybe used as a tea, or it was used just as a pure powdered herb. And you do still gain benefit from that, absolutely. So you can still gain benefit from using it every day in those ways. But when you're using it to treat chronic conditions,
yes,
or to ensure that you're getting real maximum benefit and absorption, that's where something like a supplement comes in, because they are more concentrated and they are more easily absorbed. So I think it's also about the context in which you're using it as well.
So are the Pukka turmeric supplements produced with black pepper to make it more absorbable?
They're actually produced with long pepper.
What's the difference? Could you explain that to?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's basically the size. So your traditional black pepper, you get these little circular peppercorns, and long pepper, they're elongated peppercorns. And the reason why we use the long pepper is we find it actually works better with the turmeric and with the curcumin. And also long pepper's a very traditional Ayurvedic herb as well. And it's used in lots of other formulas, things like trikatu, for example. So it's also sticking with our Ayurvedic roots. The key really is the constituent, which is the piperine, which is what gives it that really peppery feeling.
I remember Sebastian of Pukka Herbs saying to me in an interview that we should all consume turmeric on a daily basis. He called it the super spice, and he said has extraordinary health benefits. How can we incorporate that into our daily diet, Katie?
I mean, there are an awful lot of different ways that you can do it. There are, you can probably see in the background, I've got the giant Pukka turmeric tea there. So
which is absolutely delicious, by the way. I've tried it.
It's really lovely. And that's one really easy way of doing it. And you do still gain benefit from water, which is sort of the technical term for a cup of tea. And for example, we've tested the antioxidant levels in our tea as well.
And so how high are they?
So they came out as being the same actually as a whole portion of blueberries, which is quite amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and that's just from one cup of tea. So it's as easy as that, really. You could have a cup of turmeric tea. You could take a food supplement if you're trying to deal with a chronic, long-term or more kind of ingrained medical issue. And also you can incorporate it into your cooking as well. So there are lots of different ways in which you can sort of get it into your diet on a daily basis.
Okay, so how could you incorporate turmeric into recipes? Do you have any recipes you could share with us?
Well, our lovely social media manager, Dan, who's been tweeting about this, he found a really lovely recipe actually, which was for turmeric lemonade, which is a really nice one, I think, hopefully, for the nice weather that's going to come in the next couple of weeks, crossed. And that was really lovely. That was just water or sparkling water, whatever you fancy. You add in your freshly grated turmeric, or you could add in, for example, if you have a food supplement, you could open out a capsule and pop that in, or you could add your turmeric tea bag, and you combine that with things like honey. You can combine it with fresh orange juice, lemons and limes, whatever you fancy. But it was basically just water, turmeric, and then something to sweeten it and just give it a little bit of zing. And pop that in the fridge or keep it at room temperature, whatever you fancy. And that's a really nice sort of refreshing drink to keep you going during the hot weather, which I'm hoping will come out next week.
Well, that sounds extraordinary. It gives a whole new meaning to the idea of lemonade. I would never have thought that you could make turmeric lemonade. What does it taste like?
Do you know what? I need to give it a try at home, actually, because I haven't tried it yet. I only came across it very recently. But I know you can get hold of some really lovely turmeric juice as well. So even things like smoothies, putting fresh turmeric in or emptying out capsules. And it does give it a really nice sort of spicy warmth to it.
And an amazing colour, which would be perfect for summer.
Absolutely.
Could we talk a little bit about the sort of health conditions that could benefit from using turmeric?
Definitely.
What sort of conditions would those be?
Most of the research out there is looking at the anti-inflammatory properties of turmeric. And just as an example, any condition where you might use something like a paracetamol or an ibuprofen, so where you have inflammation associated with pain, this is where turmeric really comes into its own, because how it works is it reduces two major enzymes that increase during inflammation. So it helps to reduce those down and really balance out their production in the body. And the knock-on effect of that is that it reduces inflammation, though most commonly it's used for things that are arthritic based, but also anything that's affecting mobility, the joints, skeletal structure. So it's all about kind of staying active, but also it's a natural antioxidant. So often a lot of people use it where there are chronic degenerative conditions, and all that means really is a long-term condition that's affecting the health of a particular system or body part. So conditions such as dementia, conditions such as Crohn's disease, they all account as being chronic and degenerative, where there's a characteristic there of inflammation or deep down cellular damage. So it's something that, for example, I've used short term for something like pain, but then I've also used long term for treating more kind of deep down chronic long term conditions. So you can use it in lots of different ways, and for short and for long term treatment.
Well, you know that I have been using one of your turmeric supplements for inflammation in the esophagus.
Yes.
With chronic inflammation and pain, and you know, I can say that it's made a tremendous difference to the level of inflammation in my esophagus right now. It's been quite incredible. So I've been really impressed by how turmeric does work with chronic pain and inflammation. In fact, when I had tests, it showed that the inflammation had really quite dramatically reduced.
Wow. Okay. That's that's
very impressive. What does Ayurveda say about turmeric? What does it say about the spice in Ayurvedic wisdom?
There are some really lovely names actually for turmeric in Ayurveda. I think my favourite one is Kanchani, which means the golden goddess. And essentially, the reason why it was revered in Ayurveda is because it was believed to balance all of the three, so the Vata, the Pitta, and the Kapha. So essentially, meaning that it has benefit for every body type. And there aren't actually that many herbs that have that benefit, interestingly. So that's quite a unique benefit, if you like, of that particular herb. But also, traditionally, it was used as a blood cleanser. And
so when would you do that? When would you use it as a blood cleanser, Katie?
Well, this is one of the things where really having a good, healthy blood supply actually supports the health of the whole body. And I think this is where the idea of turmeric being a whole body spice or product or herb that supports whole body health really comes from. Because essentially the quality of our blood, so the blood circulating around our body and providing nourishment, oxygen, food to all of our organs, if you have a good, healthy blood supply, then that will support the health of your whole body. One of the things it does specifically target is improving blood supply, and the liver obviously is the key organ for cleansing and detoxing and getting rid of any sort of nasty chemicals or harmful toxins that we might have picked up maybe from either our diet or environmental pollutants, anything like that. So it also really helps to keep our body cleansed in a way. So it works in two different ways, as well as also being a circulatory stimulant. So it also improves blood supply to the heart as well. So it does so many different...
It really is the wonder spice. Tell me, does it have anything to do with the conditions that it grows in? What sort of conditions does turmeric need to thrive? And where does it grow?
So we grow ours in 3 southern states of India. One of them is Kerala, for example, and it grows alongside herbs like ginger and alongside other herbs like tulsi and sugarcane. So it grows in very hot, very dry conditions. And interestingly, if you look back at tradition, look into where a plant grows and what it does, the fact that it grows in quite hot and quite dry conditions, and actually what it's very good at treating is very hot, dry and irritated conditions. So
it mirrors the environment in which it grows. It's fascinating. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. It's an area that I find particularly interesting when you look at maybe how a plant feels or tastes or where it grows. It's very interesting stuff.
It's fascinating because what it shows us that that nature provides us with everything we need to nourish and heal ourselves if we just look for it. And it's so important to protect that habitat.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
You know, so that these wonderful herbs and plants that can sustain and rejuvenate us flourish and can continue to help us. That's fascinating, Katie. I'd now like to move on and talk to you about green tea. Now, I know that sales of green tea are really, really going through the roof, particularly in the UK. We are becoming a nation of green tea drinkers, and that quantities of black tea are falling, and that as people become more health conscious. What is it that makes green tea so special, and are all green teas equal?
The main thing about green tea and all the the big kind of information out there in the media about green tea is all about its antioxidant potential. So it's a very, very strong and a very powerful antioxidant. So just to give a bit of a kind of information on what that really means is that an antioxidant protects you from a free radical. And a free radical, if you like, is a molecule that's lost a component. So it's sort of missing a limb. And what it's trying to do is go out and find something to replace it. And to do that, what it actually does is it attacks healthy cells and steals parts from other cells. And when that happens inside our body, and herbs that are antioxidant actually protect those cells. So it prevents these free radicals from grabbing those extra parts that it needs. And green tea is a very well-known and a very powerful antioxidant. And I would say with green tea, there are lots of different grades of green tea out there. And if you want to really gain health benefits from it, I would always suggest that you do always look for organic, because pesticides, herbicides, whatever you want to call them, are unnatural to the body. So as soon as you put them inside, it's going to take longer for your body to break them down. So you're actually putting more strain on the body rather than trying to help it. So always go for the organic, and always look for whole leaf preparations as well.
What does that mean, whole leaf preparation? Could you explain that, Katie?
Yeah, absolutely. So what it means is that a whole leaf green will mean that the green tea that you have inside your tea bag will have literally just been cut from the whole leaf, literally about 5-10 minutes before it's packaged. So the benefits of that is that you're getting, as soon as you start to cut and chop and process a raw herb, its constituents start to seep out in a way, particularly if it contains a lot of essential oils, for example. So it's all about keeping it as fresh as possible. So you may have heard there are some tea processes where you use something called fannings, which is basically the dust that's left after you've chopped the whole leaf. Yeah. And they are often a lot cheaper and perhaps a bit more accessible. But to actually gain the true benefit, you want the whole leaf, and you want to make sure that it has been either chopped just before processing.
I think the proof is in the taste. I wanted to ask you a bit about the extraordinary taste of Pukka teas. Sebastian Pohl, your founder of Pukka, who is also the master teasmith at Pukka, has created extraordinary teas with extraordinary vibrancy. I think he's reinvented herbal tea for the 21st century. How has he done that? Is it because these plants and flowers and herbs and teas are grown in the best possible conditions and harvested at that optimum level of fruitfulness? Is that why we can taste it in the teas?
I think it's a combination of things, and I think that is part of it. For a start, all of the herbs that we use in the teas are to a medicinal grade standard. So what that means is that the level of constituents that give the tea its flavour and its vibrancy all have to be at a very high level. So that's one part. I would also say organic means they have a more natural and a more true representation of taste. But also you mentioned about the farming practices, and I think one of the things really that Pukka prides itself on is the fact that we do go out there and we work with the farmers and we help them, and we support a lot of sustainable farming practices. For example, things like Fair for Life and Fair Wild. So I think it's really a combination. I think if you're growing something in a sustainable and a happy environment, that is transferred back to the plant itself, and all of that combined really enhances the energy of the plant that you're then putting into a tea bag at the end.
Tell me, how many cups of green tea should we drink? What is a healthy amount, and what would be too much? What's the ideal level of green tea drinking on a daily basis?
I mean, it's a question actually we do get asked quite a lot, and there's no real restriction on how many you should or you shouldn't have on a daily basis. What we normally say to people is that it's about drinking a variety during the day. And with most teas, I would say the majority of people drink, certainly at Pukka anyway, drink anywhere between perhaps 5 or 10 cups a day. And that's fine. It's all about what you're trying to gain from the tea, really, but there's no sort of serious health contraindications or implications actually with any of the teas. And if there was, or there were any cautions, they would always be listed on pack. But generally, you're quite safe to drink them sort of continuously throughout the day.
Well, you know, interestingly, when I first heard about green tea and I bought some, I didn't like it. I found it incredibly bitter.
Yes.
And that was before I discovered Pukka green tea, which just doesn't have that bitterness. Yeah. So it must have a lot to do with the way you process your tea, the fact that it's organic. To me, it has a sort of fresh sweetness about it, whereas cheaper, non-organic teas really taste quite unpleasant. They're very, very bitter.
And, you know, what we've done recently as well is we've incorporated matcha into our green teas. And matcha is still, it's from the same plant as green tea, but it's just slightly more concentrated. And that also balances out the flavour and helps to balance out the bitterness that you might get with a really kind of strong, overbrewed green tea. And also we blend, you know, we have a straightforward green tea with matcha, but then we also have other teas that have things like vanilla, which is my favourite. I've got a cup right next to me here. One with ginseng, one with lemon. So it's also about trying different combinations and finding one that works for you and that you like the taste of as well.
And I mean, presumably you could make green iced tea. Have you done that?
Do you know, actually, I think we did put up some recipes when we were really promoting green tea about a month or so ago. And there were some fantastic recipes actually with green tea and with matcha, things like smoothies, like your iced tea, Natalie.
You could I do have a recipe for a beautiful cake with green tea, with matcha. I thought I'd use some of the Pukka green tea and have a go at making a cake with green tea.
Yeah, and I had a raw vegan cheesecake actually that had matcha in it as well and green tea, and that was delicious. So there's all different kinds of ways that you can utilize it. But I think one of the nicest ones is having or incorporating it into a smoothie, I think, is another really good one.
Well, it's been fascinating talking to you, Katie. I hope, you know, through this interview we have been able to communicate some of the magic around the extraordinary plants and teas and herbs that exist in nature that we can harness for that vitality and wellness. Mm-hmm. I find it absolutely fascinating, like you. It's been really talking to you. And what we'd love is you know, for our readers to support us and discover that we have a lot of Pukka products in our Fairtrade ethical magazine shop, which is part of Ethical Hedonist. Anyway, I would love to talk to you on other topics, Katie. It's been really interesting. Thank you very much.
Talk all day about herbs. So
we will do it again soon. Thank you.
No problem. Nice to speak to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.